Hi, and welcome to Discovering Henry, where we make exciting discoveries right in your own backyard. Now, we see artistic creations pretty much on a daily basis, whether it's a painting, a photograph, or even the design of a building. But very rarely do we ever think about the creator behind the art. Well, recently, Discovering Henry had the opportunity to meet a talented local artist and discover firsthand how he creates such wonderful works of art. From his mind and through his hands, John Rutan has created countless pieces of work that stir emotion and imagination in many of the people who have the opportunity to see it. Working mostly in wax, he molds and manipulates the medium until his vision transforms into a fantastic work of art that even Michelangelo would be proud of. From the finished wax sculptures, the pieces are then cast in bronze and available for the public to enjoy. John was born in Montana and raised in the small town of Great Falls, Montana. With its magnificent Great Plains and thousands of miles of flat wheat fields and Great Rocky Mountains, this spectacular environment gave the young artist his initial inspiration. Not to mention that the renowned artist Charles M. Russell also hailed from the small town of Great Falls.
When I was a little kid, Charles Russell had just died. And for people who don't know, Charles Russell is a contemporary of Remington in a sense, in the Western art, American realism. And as I'd walk downtown in those days, you didn't have to worry about being kidnapped and stuff, and we were about 2 miles from downtown Great Falls. So I'd walk downtown either by myself or with my buddies, and every time I went downtown Great Falls, I'd stop at his studio. And there was a house very much like this one where he worked. And you could just walk in and there's a woman there. Maybe it was his wife. I don't even remember because I was a little kid. And she'd take you around and show you all the stuff, you know. And his palette was still there. His models, his sculptures were all there, like he just died. And it was great. I would have to say that in itself was a big influence.
An influence that propelled him to create pieces of sculpture depicting the American way of life from the 1800s right up until today. His work exemplifies the wildlife of the American West and the tragic hardships of the Civil War. Though sculpture is his main passion, John Rutan works in many other forms of artistic expression, from photography to pen and ink, and of course painting. But each medium conveys its own sense of style.
It almost approaches, in a sense, Cézanne, where it's more not painting from memory, but painting from my imagination. And it's not cubism, but it's more stream of consciousness. And then on the other end of the spectrum, my photography generally is of landscapes and extremely realist. And so through the three mediums, I kind of cover the gamut between extreme realism to Cézannism, for lack of a better term.
One of the frequent questions John is often asked is, where do you get your ideas from?
More often than not, I'll see something or hear something, and it can be as simple as a knee on a horse. If I'm out and I see a horse go by, and the way the leg flexes, or the way the shadow falls, and that'll set something in motion. I'll come back and I'll start sketching. And it may be a real loose, random sketch, but regardless, it'll take off, and one thing will lead to another.
But some of his ideas stem from historical events that created a great impact on our country, such as this sculpture called War Cry.
I went to Chickamauga, come back from Chattanooga, and I toured the grounds up there. And just all that was going on and how the battle moved rapidly. It wasn't a battle which they sat down early in the morning, they held their ground and fought out the day. It was a battle where it started off in the morning and the right flank, by 10 o'clock the right flank had failed, like the northern troops, and the Confederate troops were having trouble since the flank had fallen so fast, moving men forward, only when they got up there to find that there's a retaliation by the other troops, and just all this confusion and motion. And so I came back, and again, between the idea of wanting to do the horses and the influence of the battle and so on and so forth, I came up with the Confederate artillery unit charging forward to move their lines forward.
John's love of sculpting is reflected in his work. The detail and realism that is put into each piece creates not only a beautiful work of art, but also tells a story. However, not all of John's three-dimensional pieces are created from wax. He has also created detailed models of another favorite pastime, shipbuilding.
A lot of those too come from a result of sketching. One of the ones was the Cynthia Terracano. It's a tugboat that operates out of Savannah. I was looking at it, I thought, I'm going to build that boat. And so I'd study a bit and I'd go downstairs and the hull's made out of wood and the superstructure's made out of plastic. But the end result was that I actually built the boat. It's probably, I don't know the scale, but the boat's probably a couple feet long, maybe 18 inches tall. And it's a replica of the Cynthia Terracano that operates out of Savannah.
So how long has John considered himself a professional artist?
When the artist produces for themselves, not for another, is when they really become a professional. And the reason I say that is when you produce for yourself, then you become the finite measure. And you know in your heart of hearts whether or not it's good. And it doesn't matter whether the critics or anybody else likes it. When an actor is actually acting for themselves, when a painter is painting for themselves, and the musician is playing for himself, then he has reached the realm of professionalism. I think that people think that art is this panacea of joy, where the artist is in a state of creation and he's very happy. I would have to say that when I'm actually creating, I would venture a guess that my blood pressure is probably off the chart. It's frustrating, it's demanding, it's incredibly rewarding.
And where can you see John's work up close and personal?
I have works over at the Georgian Gallery with Keith Sweat. They can contact Keith. He handles the work. They can look at it there. Any piece I have here they want to see, I can take over there and Keith would show it to them. Or they can come by here, make an arrangements where I'm here, and they can come by here and get with me.
Now, if you want to learn more about John Rutan, just visit his website at www.jrutan.com. Stay tuned. Discovering Henry will be right back.